Oh, it's preparing to live stream.
Right. We're getting.
Setting up your meeting for custom streaming.
Oops. And are we live?
Are we live?
I think we're live.
Okay.
We're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kundalini Hour with Alan Steinfeld, myself, Kai Shanti, and today we have special guest Tim Rustow. And I actually met Tim when I was with Alan. Alan, yeah, do you remember? You were hosting a program. I was doing a Shaktipat program in New York City. And we went to see Abdi the night before. And Tim was there. He had just gotten back from India, the Kali temple, and he was holding a Kali book. And Alan said, you need to talk to Kai. So that's the first time we met. And then he came to the Shaktipat program the following evening. And then he also came to my Shaktipat program the following evening in New Jersey. And we've been buddies ever since. We've been Shakti buddies. That was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that.
No, it was more, 4 years ago.
Was it?
2016, September 2016.
Okay.
And I gave you a Kali book too, didn't I, Tim? Give you that book of mantras?
No, you recommended, but I don't think you gave it to me. But it really, you said, you're the one who saw the book. Yeah. And you said, Callie, you got to speak to Kai. So you introduced us.
Right. Well, and here we are because, I think you two, from what I've researched, have gone deeper into the understanding of what Shakti Kundalini is. And a lot of people have it happen, but they don't know what's going on. And, and it's great to talk to people who...
It's great because on one level, you think you know what's going on, and on the next level, there's constant surprise and mystery and twists and turns and new revelations all the time. So it kind of has that quality where you have some ground to stand on, you have some tradition to look back on and to appreciate and to inform, but the Shakti itself is always fresh and dynamic. So the traditions of the past can point to certain things and they can explain certain things you might be experiencing, which can come in super helpful at certain stages. But at other stages, you're on your own. And everyone has their own dharma, their own karma. The Shakti is expressing itself through all of creation. So it has, everyone's a flower, but not everyone's the same flower. And so that unique expression through each of us, no one can really go there with you, but there's similarities and you can discuss the similarities. And let's say there's a platform.
Well, for people who don't know anything, what were you going to say, Kai? Because
I was going to say that Tim and I have a similar path in that both of us really did learn a lot about the science of it. We had guru, well, he had more than one guru. So we really learned that esoteric yogic science, but both of us ended up discovering that we really had to go it alone, so to speak.
Well, I want to ask though, for people who have no idea what we're talking about, because we're talking about something, I guess I would say it's this powerful release of energy that goes up the spine, transforms your consciousness, awakens your vibration, and you become a walking kind of, you get closer to the divine is what I would say. I don't know. How would you what would you say?
Just like that. That was an awesome description.
That was a good description, but I'm sure you can add to it.
Or to improve on that one. I would just add that when you're, in my journey, I can explain it from my experience. When I was predominantly in ego consciousness, was it Einstein who said you can't solve the problem with the same consciousness that developed the problem? Something like that. So it's kind of like that. Like I was at the end of my tether because I could see how my personality complex enmeshed me in what I was enmeshed in, and how I couldn't really, the personality complex couldn't free me from it. Didn't know how. It didn't have the vibration or the tools to do it because I already used everything that the mind could come up with. I to my satisfaction, I had already done anything that attracted me or made sense. So then at that moment, I really gave it up to surrender, because I just felt like I'm at my wit's end. Like, please, I need some kind of extra egoic force to go to work on my spiritual journey, on my physical journey, on my emotional journey. Otherwise, it sounds like hell. And I think that's the difference. It's like a psycho-spiritual force that appears to operate external from you, but you can say it's your highest self or your God self or whatever you'd like to say.
But what ignited that? Because it doesn't happen. I mean, people in that same position wouldn't happen to them. What sparked it for you?
Yeah, he was asking me that last week, and I was saying mushrooms, but I didn't remember for sure.
I was trying to hide that. Come on.
No, we gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
I would, in the past, I would look at things as like a trigger or causation, but I learned from Kelly herself that there's no cause and effect, and if there is any cause and effect, she's it. That's the way she explains it. So what I look at now is a tapestry. So I don't think, this getting, I was physically ill. I had Epstein's Barr syndrome, which is like a chronic fatigue kind of situation, or like an egoic personality led to health burnout. And I'd really burned the candle at more than both ends for a long time. And it caught up with me. And I guess that set the table, because that moved me to a more receptive stage. But we can say, like, what triggers it, it's really grace, because I can tell you stories about beautiful mushroom trips and gurus and blessings and all that. And they all contributed. But in the end, it's just grace, because another person could go through similar things and it may not happen that way for them. It's just somehow your number is up. And that's part of the beauty of the mystery, that we can explain certain things and we can point to certain things. But in the end, it's grace and the mystery that for some reason, its own intelligence, its own expression decides, oh, your number's up. We're gonna go to work on you. And that came in several stages.
Do you feel that it's predetermined then?
I feel like there seems to be an element of free will that allows you for devotion and surrender and receptivity. So once you've done that, then it's grace. And I see it in people who I meditate with. They're more open and receptive and relaxed. The less they know, the less they think they know, the more likely it is that Shakti will grab hold of them or make sweet love to them or whatever.
Why women, in my experience, women tend to be more receptive.
Much more.
Why, Sakai? Why are they?
Because they have a more surrendering nature in general.
More receptive nature.
Receptive.
They are receptive. But what was the first sign, like, if you do like a drug or something, you don't think anything's happening?
Yeah.
Suddenly, I think so. What was that?
Well, it was a fun story. I had gone to Burning Man, and I'd been going like every year for a couple of years. And this year I decided, it's my last year and I'm just going to quit everything that's bad for me. And, no more mushrooms, no more anything, like out, everything. And afterwards I went immediately to a water fasting clinic in California. So, people at Burning Man are like, you're doing what after this? You're going to a 21-day water fast? To Burning Man people, that's insane. But doing 20 hits of acid over there is not so insane. So I was at this water fasting clinic and on Facebook scrolled by a session with Abdi. And I was like, what is that? And it was like 16 days. Yeah, 16 days into my water fast.
That's how you found Abdi, just online?
Yeah. He scrolled by, not even that I lurked online. It was like in my Facebook newsfeed. And I was like, okay. And then I looked up his YouTube and I saw what he did. And I knew about Shaktipat because I knew about Muktananda and I knew about all that, but I had never seen it personally. And I'd never run into anyone who was doing that or offering that. And now 35 minutes away from my water fasting clinic in Sevastopol, was Abdi giving a session in a day, one day from then.
Yeah.
So I went to the session, and I saw about 15 people undergoing different states of Kundalini expression. Everyone in the room. And,
what year was that, Tim?
Sorry, that was 2014, and I was flabbergasted. I don't know what word I can use. I was shocked because I'd never seen that live, you know. And once your body sees that bodies in Kriyas, as you pointed out last week, Ellen, it's contagious, and something happens. There's like a trip that goes on in the switch.
Vibration transfer. Yeah, you're right.
Also the mind has to release something, because suddenly you see like they're not in control of their bodies. And before that, you've never seen that or heard about that or know about that experientially. But now you're seeing it in another human. And, you know, and something about that resonates in your mind, where you say, wow, everything I thought I knew about this is I know nothing. Now, funny enough, nothing happened at that first meeting. I didn't feel a thing. 15 people having these beautiful expressions, and I was like, I don't feel a thing. Like I was asking Abdi, can you come over and like whap me again, because I didn't get it. So, but I knew it was real, and I knew it was amazing, and I knew that was the next phase of my journey. So I became a Shakti suitor, you know, with the candy and the flowers and the singing, like a troubadour. And I just pursued Shakti in any avenue I could meet her potentially. Like, you know, is she in this cafe? Is she in this shrine? Is she in this retreat? Is she in this cacao? Yeah, I was just on it. I was like, that's what I want to pursue. That's it. That's what I need. That's the extra egoic force that I've been looking for, that can transform this, you know, this psychobiological complex that needs, in my opinion, transforming. So I really got on it. And then I went on a retreat with that because I knew he was the real deal. And during the retreat, I started feeling tingling all over my body, like as if you put your finger into a 5-volt socket or 10-volt socket continuously. And the whole body was tingling. And it just happened like during the retreat, like he was talking about something, I don't know what. And I opened my eyes. I'd been meditating spontaneously, and about 3/4 of the room was also meditating, even though he was talking about, you know, something, not in meditation. And it just, something happened in that moment. So that laid the base. And then later it was a full blown, you know, rising from the spine up to the crown, hair flying everywhere, mantras, techno, jazz, fusion, all going on in my mind at the same time. 8-9 hours dancing with yogic silks, Shakti putting me in incredible asanas I'd never done before, and crazy balancing and twists, and, you know, like that for about 8 hours. Yeah, and that happened
at the Abdi.
That happened about a year later in Tulum, in Mexico, and then that's when things really changed. That's when you can say like a dimensional shift, because everything in my external environment was the same, but nothing was the same, because people were reacting to the energy alive in my body differently. So when I saw someone, the energy of that person would not be the same as it was before. Or let's say a dog that would always bark at me on my morning walk would now go to a subservient position. Or, you know, I would always have like a kind of weird relationship with children, and now they all wanted to play with me, you know. So I could see like it's the same dimension, everything seems physically the same, but the way I'm interacting in that dimension completely changed.
Great. And that and there's no turning back once you open that door.
Yeah. Well, there's no turning back, nor would you want to. I mean, literally, I felt like, oh my God, this is the best moment of my life. I was weeping because I knew what had happened. You know, I knew it was Shakti. I knew what had happened. Shakti put me into a full pranam, which is, you know, when you lay down, you know, totally prostrate. And I'd never done that before. And I just was weeping because I just knew like what an act of grace has just happened. and it's a miracle. And I couldn't even speak for hours afterwards. All I could do is just hug people. And it was pretty amazing. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go back. I just thought it was the luckiest day of my life.
What were you gonna say, Kai?
I find it interesting because Tim didn't say what he did before all of this, but he had a pretty good job, wouldn't you say? He's pretty much given it all up. And since I've known Tim, he's just traveled the world.
Did you have a corporate job or something, Tim, or something?
I was a hedge fund manager.
Oh.
I was an emerging market and global macro hedge fund manager, and I traded at, I think at the peak, $800 million in a portfolio. I worked in Wall Street. I worked at very famous firms and banks, and I did all that for about 15 years. And and then I started to kind of lose interest in that, and it started to take a physical toll, and I stopped that. So I spent about 2 years searching before I found Abdi and all that. And then the big breakthrough happened 2 years after, where I just met you, before I met you guys, in the Kali temple in India. So that's where I can say like a second awakening happened. If the first awakening
was in Mexico, the first awakening was in Mexico.
First awakening was with Abdi with the tingling. The second awakening was in Mexico with the 8 hours of bliss,
right,
and dimensional shift. And then the third awakening was in India, and I can tell that story if you like.
Yeah, where in India?
Sorry, that was immediately before we met you, right? I mean, literally, you had just come from India.
You guys are intimately involved in that, vibration.
Where in India?
So I was, I was still in this, chasing Shakti mode, like the troubadour. And one of my ideas was to fast on Ganga water for 40 days in Rishikesh. So
the water out of Ganga?
Well, up in Rishikesh, the water's okay. So, I just people do that, yogis do that, right? And I like water fasting, and I love Rishikesh, and why not, And it was eclipses. I always thought eclipses were supercharged. So if I could be somewhere during the eclipse cycle, somewhere, charged, that it would help my spiritual practice, my sadhana. So I decided to be in Rishikesh during the eclipse. This was September 2016, August, September. And I had the idea to go to a Shakti temple in Haridwar, which is the sister city of Rishikesh. And for Mansa Devi, she's the goddess of snake energy. So I thought that would be a good place to go. And when I got to the area where the temple was, I saw these huge tour buses. And I was like, no way there's Shakti in there. Like maybe there is, but with the level of tourism,
right,
it's not the right place for me to go at this point. So I went to the concierge at the hotel, and I said, is there something else around, like a good goddess temple I can go to that has nice, strong energy? And he said, well, my family temple, where my family goes, is in a Kali temple across the river. And we can take you there with the driver, the tuk-tuk. And I said, great, that's where I want to go, the Kali temple. Mm-hmm. So we got in the tuk-tuk, and the guy only spoke Hindi, the tuk-tuk driver. And we went through some slums, and it looked pretty scary. And, I'm from New York, and I remember Tompkins Square Park back in the day, and even Amsterdam Avenue was scary to walk in, but this was equally scary. And we were going through it, and I was becoming more and more concerned. And finally, we arrived at this temple, which didn't look like much.
So she was taking you down before you got there.
Exactly. And we were talking to.
What did you say, Kai? She what?
Kali was breaking him down before he got there.
Oh.
Exactly. And there was a commotion in front as we arrived, and they were like, who are these tourists? And we were talking with them, but we couldn't really communicate because they were speaking in Hindi and we were speaking English. We weren't sure we were in the right place. And then I swear, out of central casting comes a Brahmin. So he's wearing all white. Brahmins wear white. And he was albino, white hair, white eyes, everything. And he speaks in English. You're in the right place.
Wow.
So at least I know enough to know, okay, we're in the right place. And we started meditating in this aspect of the temple where they had a big fire pit and very powerful room. And within 20 minutes, I felt as much power as I've ever felt from anything, any drug experience, meditative experience, extreme sports experience, you name it. It cannot be described. Like many, 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 many times stronger than those. And if I wasn't in a Kali temple and I wasn't like in this situation, I might have been scared, you know, because it was so strong. But, you know, there I was in a Kali temple, and I knew, even though it was super strong and potentially scary, I didn't go into fear because I knew it was good for me. I knew that this is positive, no matter how unfamiliar and strong it may be. And when I mean strong, I mean sweating, shaking, roaring, tongue out everywhere, you know, screaming.
Did that
My
happen
only
immediately when you walked in? Pretty much?
Within 20 minutes of meditating in the fire room.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend with me, thankfully, because that made it safer somehow. And the Brahmin priests would just stick their head in the room and then let it continue. So I was also nervous I'd be thrown out of this temple.
Yeah.
One of my reoccurring fears in life is to be kicked out of places for this kind of thing. Yes. And it didn't. So I stayed there for quite a long time, and it played its course. I took some breaks because it was very intense. And then I would go back into the room again. And that was another huge shift, because from that moment, I feel like Kali has never left. So we cohabit a single consciousness, sometimes stronger, sometimes less strong. So Tim is still there, and but Kali is there also. And it was from that moment in 2016.
Your sound's off, Alan.
Yeah, talk about that, because you both have, I mean, this hasn't been my experience, but you have the Divine Mother, you both have her come to you and kind of incorporate into you. And so that's something I I could see like in Kai when she channels, it's possible, but I don't have that experience. So what is this presence that has merged with you? Is it the bigger consciousness, in a sense, would you say? I mean,
yeah, well, it's I would say that it starts, I mean, from a practical standpoint. So there's your intuition, which you've known your whole life as Alan's intuition. And it has a certain quality and feel to it. You know when something intuitive, go here, or whatever. And then there's, you know, when spirit guides you, you know, you have an intuitive spiritual guidance that has a different quality. It has a lighter, more clear, more dispositive aspect to it than your own conditioned intuition.
Yeah, I've had that.
So exactly. So we can say that spiritual intuition becomes the dominant factor in your life. So you don't have to say it's Kali, you don't have to say it's Krishna. I mean, my experience is that it is Kali, but that's how it is practically, is that she's guiding you all the time in the choices you make. So you appear to have free will where you can make choices, but then you might suffer the consequence of those choices pretty quickly. So that's the kind of like training. She's your guru. She's training you like what works, what doesn't work, what's healthy, what's not healthy, what's expansive, what's contracting, what, you know, and then it's like what to do with that. You know, I have an Indian goddess of destruction cohabiting my consciousness. Am I supposed to do something with that? You know, like, am I supposed to go outside in the street with a sign, or like, should I go meditate in Indian temples for the rest of my life, or go to the forest, or go to a cave? You know?
What's that?
Start a YouTube channel.
Start a YouTube channel.
What does one do?
Well, Kai, it's similar. Is it talk about how that is sort of similar to your experience of the merging, right? With the
yes, absolutely. It's the same, and I think that's why Tim and I connect so well, is that we both have this full merging of the Kali energy, and it is the greater energy, it is the greater consciousness energy, but for whatever reason, she comes through very, very personified as Kali. She says, "This is Kali. I am Kali," and I've been doing a lot of Shiva lately too. But
yeah, I was also going to get into that. So perfect segue, Kai. So I was in this Kali, you know, vibe, and all about Kali, loving Kali, like as Divine Mother, that her aspect as Divine Mother. And the form she came through for me is called Vama Kali. And Vama means the beautiful form of Kali. So, you know, this anthropomorphic representation you see sometimes of a very scary looking Kali. I don't see that one. I feel the presence of this Vama Kali, which is kind of the most feminine, most beautiful form of Kali. Now I was all ensconced in that and cool with Hinduism and all that, and even though that's not my background, and I started to have lots of embodiment of different Hindu deities. So Ganesha, I would feel myself to have a big trunk. Vasuki is the snake around Shiva's neck. I would be slithering around on the floor in my meditations. So in India, in Hinduism, they call this Bhava, and it means divine mood. It's the embodiment of these energies, of these deities in your body, and then they express themselves through you. And there can be different aspects of this bhava. One is a trance bhava. People just have no idea what happened afterwards. Like sometimes a shaman or a channel will go into a trance. And other times people are fully present. They're cohabitating a single consciousness. And that's what Kai and I both experience, and which is pretty fantastic in and of itself. Shiva, different aspects of Shiva, different aspects of Kali, Parvati, you know, you name it, Krishna, Radha. But then when it starts going into non-Hindu aspects, that's where a whole nother conditioning has to evaporate, because yeah, it's the one singular consciousness. And Kai had experience with light beings, as have I. So, you know, that's not really in the Hindu, well, it is if you really look at it in the Vedas and everything, but it's not so expressly out there. So when you start having experiences that might be not confined to one tradition, then you realize and a whole nother layer has to be shedded, and you're just really don't know anymore. Like you thought you knew something, and now you're really showing me, you know, yeah, I don't know. All I know is that there are a lot of energies and beings and high vibration deities and light beings that seek to work through different portals, and this body appears to be a portal for that. And when I sit and meditate with people, and or not even in their dreams, or they just think about me or things like that, these different energies and deities and light beings will sometimes work through them.
Right. I just
so I can't pretend that I know how that works, because I don't know how it works.
What you're saying is so important, because I want to just tell people this is not imaginary. This is not, oh, I think it's like someone is, it's like as real as any physical experience you can have, right? I mean, it's right.
Well, that's the amazing thing, you know. Of course, you know, I had a background in economics and politics and banking, and I was a very practical, grounded person. I still like to think I am, and so I would ask people at the end of meditation, you know, like, no pressure, but would anyone like to share what they experienced? And when their experiences in meditation matched my experiences in meditation all the time, even people who never experienced anything before, over many years, you know, over 4 years, that gave me some confidence that, you know, that whatever I was experiencing was in fact what everyone was experiencing, and it was just at what piece they were experiencing. So there was a constant feedback mechanism, and that really helped.
You and I also experienced that, Tim. Often I'll make a YouTube video and Tim will say, I'm going through the same thing here.
Yeah, well, Kai always says, well, who else is there but the two of us, you know, because at least we can share amongst each other, because to have all this going on is not so common in the kind of Kundalini awakening scenario. So it's so nice to have Kai, and I will, I'll see her YouTube videos or something she's written, and it'll be exactly what I'm going through at that time. Like, I mean, exactly. And I have that only with one or two other people who I feel close to spiritually. And that's great, because it's like a love note from Ma. That's the way I call it. Because, you know, like a synchronicity, you can have a synchronicity outside. I'm thinking about Durga for some reason, Durga. And I want to honor Durga. So I put on my red clothes and I'm thinking Durga. And I think, oh, the only thing missing is an offering for Durga. And as I walk out into the street, there's literally a hibiscus offering right at my feet, you know, right there, as if for Durga. And then the mind can say, oh, you know, Bali, they make offerings all the time. And yes, they don't use hibiscus, but this, you know, whatever. But when you see it in so many different places all the time, that we can say, you know, it's not even a synchronicity. it has a completely different magnitude. And I'd say that's a love note from Ma. And that's what keeps you sane, these love notes from Ma, because you know, okay, and the mind, at least my mind, needs constant reassurance that this is real. Yeah.
Absolutely. But for Kai and you both, this is not a plateau you've reached and like boom, you've arrived. Talk about that, Kai, how it's like an ongoing, it's not static. It's not like you don't ever arrive, or do you?
Well, I'm sure there are beings that arrive. I personally have not arrived. And that was shown me so clearly this year when what happened to me this year, and I guess it's in alignment with the whole COVID thing, but it was a whole new level of something. And I'm still not perfectly clear on what that something is, but it was a whole new level of awakening, a whole new level of clearing, a whole new level of energy. So it's never ending, and the layers just keep getting peeled away, and there are more and more places to go and deeper places to explore. And like Tim said, more and more beings that come to visit and introduce themselves. Like when I was at the Dr. Joe retreat, I met unicorns and Pleiadians. It's not exactly yogic.
Your biography, Unicorns and Pleiadians.
Yeah, so that's one of the amazing things that's happened, because also Kai and I are experiencing, I mean, I don't know exactly what she's experiencing, but from what I can sense, it's similar. So something in my feeling in this COVID situation, something tripped, where they used to talk about the split between 3D and 5D Earth that was going to happen. And Dolores Cannon talked about that. And kind of in the New Age literature, they used to show like two Earths going in their own separate direction. And Dolores Cannon would say, the people in 3D Earth don't know there's been a split. You know, they're still doing their 3D matrix stuff. They're still ongoing, whatever. And the people in the 5D split, like, realize there's been a split and are living in this more 5D vibe. And, who knows what's really going on, but in my feeling, that's what's happened with COVID. There's a split, and like, you can see the let's say the darker aspects manifesting within the matrix, the cities and in that paradigm and the existing paradigm. And then there are other people who have opted out of all that over the last decade, especially, but it's sharpening the focus. And what happened to me is that the veil, it was already thin, and it really thinned out, coinciding with COVID. You can say maybe it's because you had to stay at home and you weren't diffusing your energies, whatever reasons why, the whole package. And then that's when a whole nother transformation started happening, where it was really like at a deep cellular level. And that was the advent of the Elohim and Mayan intelligence. So they both showed up, and they were very involved in a highly physical process. And that's been going on since COVID.
Well, I think something has happened during this crisis where the veils between the dimensions are much thinner. I find a lot of people saying it's easier to meditate. It's easier to access some other realm because reality itself has been distorted. So there's none of that heavy old mental mindset that weighed us down through, millenniums of tradition. Somehow we've taken a left turn in the cosmic timeline, and we're in new territory that frees us. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think it's a great insight, and it's like that. It's like, as long as you think you know everything, there's no room for something else to get through. But everything that's happened in the last couple of years with COVID and before, it unsettled the ground. Suddenly people are like, the healthcare system, the doctors, the pharmaceuticals, the politicians, like, I'm not really having faith in any of this anymore. So let's say, like, that was me on the way to the Kali temple. I was like, what's going on here? This is unfamiliar, dangerous territory. And I think that when that's the first stage, when your paradigm becomes unsettled, then other things can break through,
Well, that's what happened to you, Kai. You want to talk about your trip the journey of this last couple of months, because you went through something and out the other side to awaken a bigger kind of frame of reality.
I suppose I did, Alan, but it's still not super clear to me. That's the really interesting part. Something opened up, something split open, something just ripped. I mean, it ripped open. And I still can't make sense of it. I really still can't make sense of it. I'm still in I don't know mode.
But
I'm
it's
still experiencing.
still happening then, this transformation for you?
It's happening on a much lesser degree, but it's still the same energy. I can still feel the same energy. Like the first part of it was I tried to talk to Tim and it wasn't even, we couldn't even talk. It was so intense. I couldn't talk to anybody. For 40 days, I couldn't talk to anybody. I can't really describe the level of intensity of that first part. I wouldn't be doing this right now. So it's the intensity has lessened a lot. And I know that this is something that I will be reflecting on for years. And, it'll start to make more and more sense to me.
Well, I see how connected you and Tim are. I think I see he has like a window into a kind of psyche that you're both in. I mean, I see that connection. Your psyches are sort of entwined in some ways. That's just the feeling I get.
Yeah, we hosted a retreat before together, and it went super well. Like we're a good team in meditation, and there's definitely a dynamic between us, and it's a lot of fun for us, and it's powerful for people who are in that vortex.
Yeah, I think that neither of us, well, maybe you have, Tim, but I haven't met anybody who's so in alignment with
No, I
my
haven't either.
path and the way my path is opening and unfolding, and just
Yeah,
the first
I feel
time
the
we
same
met.
way. If I just know the existence of Kai gives me a lot of grounding in my life.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, to know that someone else is going through it in a very similar way.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the changes that Kai experiencing, because I was like, whoa, what's all that, and I could see something deep was happening with her, and she recounted some of the experiences she had, which sounded, borderline worrisome, but still good, but very intense. And of course I thought, oh, I wonder if that's coming for me also, because if it's happening for Kai, I'm probably right around the corner, And this was the same time that we can say this extra dimensional intelligence made contact. So the intensity of what's been going on the last couple of months doesn't seem to be as intense as what Kai was experiencing. However, there's a lot of intensity. Buckets of sweat every night are pouring off me. No matter what I do, I'm just detoxing all the time, and I've detoxed a lot already in my life. It's not like I spent 8-9 years detoxing. So it's new levels of detoxing as burning off all the time. And luckily is what it is. This intelligence, this Mayan intelligence, I know it's Mayan because it introduces itself as Mayan intelligence, and the Elohim, which you can think of as an angelic presence, are both there all the time also. So, there's a friend of mine says entourage. There's like an entourage. And I think of Kali as the mistress of ceremony. She's always there. She's in the background. She's the stage. She's the actors. But different things need to be expressed and taught and communicated and transmitted. And so these other beings, other aspects, other frequencies are like doing her bidding, let's say, but they have specific aspects or frequencies that they are transmitting. So the same way that Krishna shows up sometimes, but it's still Kali, the same way the Elohim show up, but it's still Kali, even though it's outside the tradition of Hinduism.
Well, do you think we're really an aspect of that? Like we're let's call it sub-personality, or splits from these divine realms. So the illusion is our human personality, and that's really like it's like branches on a tree. Like we're like a little branch coming off like the main trunk. The trunk is Kali, and there's other beings, and then we're this little branch that we think is the whole tree, but we're the little side thing, and it's like we're connected to that. Yeah.
I also think it's so beautiful in this aspect of Kundalini awakening that, there's never a dull moment, in the kind of Shakti Kundalini awakening versus like a Shiva awakening, which might be more prone to monastic silence. In the full-blown Kali awakening, it's just never a dull moment. Like she strings you along, she has the carrot, the light beam, whatever, you're going, and it's the transformation is happening and it's ongoing, and there are periods of it's never stopping, and there are periods of super intensity, but it's never like, it's always some new aspect or thing or new, dynamism that makes itself felt. And my own feeling is that these different aspects are ones like our soul fragments of yours, to use a word that's used. So that I must have I, Tim, my soul's journey, or Shakti, her soul's journey, or both combined some aspect, have a relationship with the Elohim that Tim is going to be receptive to. So they're here to deliver a certain transmission and teaching because that's what I can connect with, given my own karma, my own dharma, my own soul's journey.
But what's it all for? Where's it all going? What's the ultimate? Why?
No idea.
Come on, you must kind of have a educated guess, right? Or you, Kai. I mean, it's going somewhere, obviously.
Alan, the further you go, the further you don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can make assumptions on things you've read or intuition.
I can give you a description that the Elohim gave me. So what they said was, see, when Tim can't come up with a good theory, I'll let them do it. What they said was, the enlightenment is, we can say, like the outcome. So what is enlightenment? Enlightenment. So there's the enlightenment that we learned about from the traditions, that came from yogic traditions, Buddhist traditions, Sufi traditions, Christian traditions. They all had it. And then they all had their own philosophy about it and their own expressions of it, because no two flowers are identical. So everyone's enlightenment has commonality, but also has unique aspects relative to their soul's journey or karma or dharma, or whatever you want to say. So that's where it is headed. And how do you know when that is happening? Is it like for some people, yes, but usually it's just you literally become more light. And what that means is physically and mentally and emotionally, that light is present. And for people who can see and feel these things, it becomes quite apparent. So you might just express it as like, wow, she has a great energy. But for other people who are also going through the process, they'll actually see the light shining through that person. And then, you can look back through human history and the shining ones and the Elohim and angelic presences and halos around saints and all that stuff. So my educated guess, and from their teachings, is that that's where it's headed. But it's not like one fell swoop. It's a gradual process of constantly detoxing, shedding baggages, blockages, distortions, beliefs, patterns, layer upon layer upon layer. So that, to me, appears where it's headed.
But something is awakening beyond, something is happening. It's something else is going on, some transcendent. We're going somewhere. The light is bringing something to the incarnation, to the form, to the plane of existence. I mean, and they're working through people who've had these awakenings, as so you're part of the legions of so and we're always working through an ego aspect, but my feeling is there's a reason to it. I mean, we might not have any idea because it might be bigger than us, but it's good. I mean, people were saying in the chat, be careful of your Kundalini awakening. I think it's all perfect. Yes, there's some severe cases, but just let it unfold, right? I mean, don't want to. I mean, what do you say about that? People say Kundalini awakenings could be dangerous. I don't believe it. I mean, yes, it could be serious, but I don't know.
That's also a big difference that now. Sorry, Kai, go ahead.
You can answer, Tim. I'll say when I'm.
Oh, you
so I feel, in the old days, in a more masculine dominated consciousness, it was awakening Kundalini through will. So, up till a couple of years ago, all books about yoga and Kundalini advocated practices, not all books, but almost all, about certain practices like pranayama or asana. And this was all like a male yogic path. And something happened with the consciousness, the general consciousness, where a more feminine aspect of the Kundalini became present, and where the kind of overheating Kundalini emergency, too many practices, was indicative of a willful driving to awaken Kundalini. In the last couple of years, it seems more accessible, this feminine energy, which is not willfully doing extreme yogic exercises, but is surrender and allowing. And in my experience, willful exercises can serve a purpose, can help clear the system or set the table. But the minute Kundalini wakes up, just surrender to that and drop all practices, because the last thing you want to do is use your will, i.e. your ego, or what someone wrote in a book, or what some teacher up there tells you to do with your Kundalini, because the Kundalini itself knows what to do and how to express itself if you'll only let her. So that's where people, in my view, get into trouble, is the Kundalini is awakened, but they use their will or psychotropic drugs or plant medicines or other things which are maybe too strong, and then not such pleasant aftermath.
No, that's great. I agree. What do you think, Kai?
I agree. And I think the Kundalini is God. I mean, it's an aspect of God, right? It's the awakening aspect of God. So if you were to pick any energy to work through your body and surrender completely to that energy, wouldn't it be God? So if you know that God is working within your body, you know that God is going to do exactly what your body and your psyche needs for the highest and best. So it really comes down to complete trust and complete surrender. Oh, this is the process of divinity working through me. It's not some separate energy that's coming into my body and is going to do some weird thing with me. This is the intelligent force of beingness. This is your very beingness. This is what formed your body in the first place. Kundalini energy forms the body. So when it reawakens, it's bringing the body back to highest consciousness. It can't do anything wrong if you purely surrender to it.
I agree. That's why people shouldn't be afraid of this. They shouldn't go into fear. It's like, oh no, what happens? It's like, it is the purity of the divine force. This is why I keep telling Val, our friend, who, it's the divine touches everyone, but it really touches people who've had this Shakti emanate through them. Of course, we're all emanations of the divine, but when you have an experience like you two and me a little bit and Val and other people, then there's nothing but the divine flowing through. And how could that be bad or dangerous or whatever?
And that's
everyone has their own resistances, and doubts. So yes, it's like, of course, but hey, I've got to go. I have an appointment in an hour and I'm having all these kriyas, like make them stop, So then, in a practical aspect, or a more, let's say you're in like this happened to me. I'm in a meditation with people who it's their first time meditating with me. And, people aren't really familiar with this aspect of Kundalini awakening, Shaktipat so much at the current time. And they don't know what to expect. So, I can't really prepare them for all the different possibilities that could happen in a meditation. I just say, relax, surrender, stay in your own process, whatever happens, happens. Different deities or entities can make themselves felt. It's all good. Space is being held, etc. But I can't really prepare them for, oh, I'm going to be slithering like a snake across the floor, and I don't know that that's going to happen either. So while it's about to happen, I could feel the energy well up inside me. I could think, oh no, these people might get freaked out by this manifestation of the Shakti. So can it be toned down a little, because I don't want to scare them or make them feel uncomfortable. You see, so it's a constant battle like that. Like, can you let the full expression of this grace emanate through you unfiltered? So that takes some time to get used to. So, you know, if you're going to make, you know, suddenly singing and dancing in the middle of the supermarket, you've got to know that that's the right place to sing and dance. And, you know, if they throw you out of the supermarket for singing and dancing, that's fine also. And, you know, you see how much courage people who really have that going on through history had. You know, like if you, the greatest example is Christ going to the temple and throwing out the money changers. I mean, wow. He takes it upon himself to go to the temple, and they've been selling the doves or whatever there for how many eons, and he throws the money changers out. Like, you got to be pretty like, okay, the divine is directing me to do it, and I'm doing it, and, you know, no holds barred. So it takes some the psyche getting used to that level of surrender, and you're constantly challenged by it. You know, it can even be, I have an affection towards someone and I really want a relationship with them, and I've known them for 20 years and I would hate to lose them as a friend, but the energy is actually telling me, you know, enough for now. You had your journey with them. And so that, you know, but maybe I should just call them or write them. Like, no, just, so you see, it's not just about letting the Kriyas through, it's also affecting the rest of your life.
What were you going to say, Kai, also about your experience as far as that and letting the energy through and all, and you know, just allowing?
I'm not sure what I was going to say, but I've gotten to the point where I am pretty good at just allowing the energy to do what she wants to do in an appropriate situation. And people will often comment to me, wow, it's really admirable how you can just surrender to that and not worry about what other people think. But it's taken me, no, I can't say it's taken me a lot of years. I've always been a little bit out there that I could do that, but I do have that issue that Tim says, as in communicating with people, friendships, ending relationships, that I always feel this egoic sense of responsibility to act a certain way with people just in my normal life, to maintain relationships, to maintain friendships in a certain way, to respond in a certain way. Often just even writing an email to someone, I will just surrender. I always just surrender and let the divine. And sometimes what comes through, I say, no, I can't say that. Like, I can't say that, but I do. And it always ends up being appropriate, interestingly.
Yeah. So I mean, I love this kind of conversation because there's a lot of people who have no idea what we're talking about, first of all. Right?
I know.
But
this is supposed to be Kundalini for beginners, but that's okay.
No, but I think the people who do, we need to have this kind of conversation, because it may seem separate for all of us, but it's also something that joins us. There's the oneness, the conscious, the connection, all that. That's not separate somehow.
One of the things that I think is so great about what's happening currently, and I can see it happening through Kai, and I can see what's happening in my own experience, is that it's just more available. So as you had your own experience, Alan, we can say it's contagious, you know, or it leaps from person to person, because your body looks at that, or your psyche or your spiritual aspect, and says, oh, interesting. And it's like a tuning fork. So, you know, you don't have to have a discipleship for 20 years to some authoritarian guru. You know, it's like you can just go visit Kai, or online even, and have an amazing transformation, or begin an amazing transformation. So that's amazing. I mean, we don't have to climb mountaintops. We don't have to be slaves at an ashram. We don't have to do any of that. There are many people now in the world, and we know some of them, who can transmit or serve as a vehicle for the awakening energy. And all one need to do is contact them, and you don't even have to be in the same geographic location. So I just think it's so hopeful and amazing. And that speaks to your bigger question about like what's going on. It's definitely more available. It's definitely stronger. it's definitely more people know about it, and more people are comfortable with this feminine aspect versus the willful aspect. So I can see all the time that it's, you know, there's something in the collective consciousness that's more allowing of it, and the energy itself is becoming more available and stronger.
Well, what are we going to say, Kai? Go ahead.
I was just going to see if I have any questions
I have questions, but on my side. But I also want to talk about what you just mentioned, Tim, what you're doing at your temple, the transfer of energy, how you're working with other people. I think that's very interesting. And you're making this available online, right?
Well, I'm guided at different points to offer different things, and I kind of just in that surrender mode. So sometimes I feel like I'm in a more cocoon-like period, and it can be months where I don't offer anything outside publicly. And then there are times where someone will come to me and offer a space, and that seems like a good idea for a while. And then there are people I'm in contact with because I've met them in my journey. So I'll constantly, be in some kind of communication with them to check up on their processes, or available to them if they have questions or if they'd like to meditate together. But here in Bali, I live in Ubud. I got a download, I guess, over 2 years ago to build a Kali temple here. So I'm building a Kali temple in Ubud, and it should be done in end of October, I'm guessing. And that will be a place where people can come to commune with that energy. Yeah.
Can you share your you have pictures of that on your website now?
It's on Facebook if you go to Vama Kali Ashram.
Vama?
V-A-M-A?
Vama, V-A-M-A, and second word Kali, and third word Ashram.
And also, Tim has a YouTube channel where he does transmissions.
Yeah, so you can always, like, the transmissions are not bound by space and time. So one could watch those transmissions, and even the talking, the satsangs, and there's a strong transmission going on there. And that was the call was to do this YouTube channel. I made videos over a very short period of time, and I haven't made them since. They kind of just speak for themselves. They're on different topics, and also they're just straight transmissions. So if you're interested in that, it's Tim Rusto on YouTube, and enjoy those.
Yeah, but how are you going to activate the temple? How are you going to bring, I mean, maybe, it's not about doing, but how will you bring the Kali energy into the sanctuary?
That's a good question. And it's also a question someone who really knew a lot about Indian temple design asked me and was appalled at my answer. So I had a vision to build this Kali temple in Ubud. And even before Kali and everything, I would always joke, like, Ubud's an amazing place, but how come there's no Jai Ma temple here? Jai Ma is like Hare Krishna for Shakti devotees. And I couldn't understand, like, how one didn't exist. And then a couple of years later, I had a full vision of Kamakya Ma temple in Assam, but in Ubud, we're using like Ubudian materials, like old Indonesian wood and that kind of thing. And then I thought, Kali directed me to move to Ubud and build the temple. And my mind still said, well, I'll go to Ubud. I like it there, but we'll see about this temple business. So I just relaxed into it and said, I'm not going to look for land. I'm not going to do anything, because if I do something willfully, I'll be always doubting whether it was the right thing. And this one woman came to a meditation, an acquaintance of mine, now a good friend. And after the meditation, she said, are you looking for some land to build something? And I said, yes, I am actually. And she said, I got a message in meditation to offer it to you. And it was exactly in the area of town that I had envisioned. And I was like, I just knew that when I heard the right thing, that I would be directed, and if that was the right time and the right land and the right person. So yeah, we made a deal almost immediately. We hugged, and that's how I acquired the land. So I would say the Kali energy of it started even before I met Kali, and now we're having ceremonies in there. We're charging it up. I live right nearby, and I'm involved with it. The design, everything about it everything came in visions. If there are any deities who are represented, they're because they came, into this body. So the whole place is already charged, and I'm sure we'll continue to get even more charged.
But in Bali, it's a little strange because there's like the Hinduism sort of officiated. There's priests, and you can't do certain things, especially if you're Balinese. How do you deal with all those Balinese like superstitions as well?
Well, that's a great question, and I was concerned about that also. So I said, "Oh my God, you know, they think Durga is challenging, you know, and there's a lot of like fear about Durga even. Forget about Kali, which is even like a more scary version of Durga." So that's one of the reasons I was doubting that whether to go ahead with this project, because I thought, my God, the Balinese, what are they going to do with the Kali temple? Is it even okay? And I just had to go with the synchronicities, the love notes, and just keep following it, thinking, okay, well, I've just got to follow it. You know, there's no other choice. And one of the things that keeps Bali, and especially Ubud, is there's local communities called Banjars, and they approve, you know, it's the Wild West pretty much as far as construction, but the style of construction still has to be approved by the Banjar. And the vision I had was to build this giant red dome, like an Indian Kali temple. And somehow the Banjar approved that, which is a shock. So all my neighbors know there's a Kali temple going up. They're fine with that. My big landlord is fine with that as well. The Banjar approved the design remarkably. So I'm not in the middle of the street saying it's a Kali temple, but it's pretty obvious there's a big red dome suddenly in Ubud. And I think that also because it's foreigners doing something, there might be a little relaxedness about it than if it was a local person who wasn't, you know, an official Balinese high priest who was, you know, it's related to their tradition, but it's not a part of their tradition. And one of the messages I had from Kali was because Bali was part of the greater India many, many centuries ago. And then with the fall of consciousness, it was separate, et cetera, somehow retained its Hindu quality. So it was kind of to reintroduce Kali into Bali. I know it sounds like grandiose and slightly absurd, but when I was feeling the whole vision of the temple, it definitely had that aspect, which is, you know, Kali has not been on this island in a representation of a temple or her. I mean, she's everywhere all the time, but Kali specifically.
In all of Bali, there's not a single Kali temple?
No.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Are you going to open it up for Balinese themselves to do ceremony?
I'm just going to go where we're guided to go. So even I was free for many years and traveling and had no responsibilities and no job and no prospects. And I loved it. And now building like a center and like having to, you know, I don't want to get enmeshed in that. So I let it go, you know, whenever it's completed, it's completed. Whoever comes will be the perfect person that needs to be there. I'll just, the same synchronicities or love notes or whatever you want to say that has guided me up to this point will continue to guide me. So if Balinese suddenly start showing up and would like to meditate, then that's great. If it's mostly Westerners, that's great too. If it's just me, that's also great. And if I'm called to move to Portugal and someone else is going to run this place, then I'm fine with that too. Sorry, you're voting.
Oh, sorry. You are just following your guidance. Well, both of you, Kai too. You're just.
Yes, at this point.
You're not building a temple, Kai, but what are you doing? Right?
What?
You're not building a temple. What are you doing?
Each and every day, I do whatever the divine guides me to do. But because I have my children, that's big for me. I mean, my children are really, really important. They're 7 and 13. So it's pretty important right now to give my children as much as I can give them. But I also give my spiritual work as much as I can give my spiritual work. So those are the two things that I focus on the most. But my children are definitely keeping me in a place where I would probably be all over traveling if I did not have them. So yes, what am I doing? I have a dream of a temple. I have a dream of a beautiful space where people can come MP, and that seems to keep presenting itself to me, but it's not here yet. So I guess really my YouTube channel is my temple at this point. And every time I do a YouTube video, I just surrender to the divine. I never know what I'm going to do my videos about. I literally close my eyes for 5 minutes and I just say, make me your vessel, God, make me your vessel, completely take my ego out of it. Even though a lot of it is talking about my personal stuff, it's God talking about my personal stuff through me. So and a lot of that is challenging for me. Do we really want to share this? Do we really want to? But that's part of it right now is, yes, we do want to share it because we're all one. There's nothing to hide. And so many spiritual teachers hide their stuff and then it gets exposed and then it gets ugly. We're all humans. We're all human beings. We're all living a human life. And everybody should know that even the people that appear to be these spiritual leaders or spiritual teachers still have their stuff. And I think that's really important right now that people understand that about everyone. We're all going through. So yeah, so a lot of times the divine just shares my stuff and I just allow it to happen. You're muted.
Well, I think, you know, I want to continue these sorts of conversations, but do you want to both, I mean, do you feel both like giving a little Shakti to whoever's like watching? That's something that.
Tim?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do it together.
Together, of course.
Yes, why not? That's the Shiva Shakti.
Om Namah
It's
Shivaya.
kind of the
Vama
opposite.
Kali.
He's more the Shakti, I'm more the Shiva, but.
All right. All right.
Like a sikamoya katayo kamoya kanayo katayo kamika nakai. Makatato so kamashawa tate bakta. Om Shakti. Vama Kali. Om Shri, Om Shri, Om Shri. By your side we are. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 One being, one light, we are. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Some people
one being, one light. Om Namah Shivaya.
Andarete shava tanda arya karashava tamasi arakrana arete kurutotanda arya karashava tamasi rata arakana arete shava arete aranda arya karashava tamasi rata aranda arete kikali tatanda arete ndoro
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Mata, Mako.
Om.
Do the Sanskrit words actually carry the vibration you feel more than
God language? It's a God language. It is vibration. The words themselves are vibration.
Om.
Maraka.
So Tim, what's your website again?
On Facebook, you can find me under my name or also Vama Kali Ashram. And on YouTube, under my name, Tim Rusto.
How do you spell
that's how to make it.
How do you spell your Tim, T-I-M?
And then the last name is R-U-S-T-O-W.
T-R-W. So you didn't take on a spirit. Have you taken on a Sanskrit?
Yeah, Vasudeva. Vasudeva is my spiritual alter ego. Like my highest self is Vasudeva. It means God resides within.
Wow. Well, we should have a little Kundalini convention, Kai.
Yeah, we should. It'd be nice to have like all the different screens. Like,
Yeah.
We've been
Val
talking about
and
that,
Amanda.
Alan. So I'm sure maybe something will manifest out of this.
Yes, I think it will. We're gonna have different guests every week, and then if
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's had an experience who's watching, just you can email me at newrealities@earthlink.net, and we'll just maybe make it a forum, have a lot of people share.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
See that?
Thanks. Do you have anything else to say, Kai? I mean, or Tim, or
No.
no?
I wanted to say thanks because
Well,
it's
sometimes,
helping,
sorry.
it's not, it's,
Sometimes it speaks, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
It's helping.
I just want to say thanks to you, Alan. Like, great. We talked about it for a while. The timing's right, and all beautiful. And your interest and your receptivity and holding space for that. It's awesome.
Well, Kai's the one who really held space for it because I have so many things going on. She said, just let's try this. So thank you, Kai. But I do have to say, Tim, you have not stopped smiling. Something's going on for you.
I still can feel the presence of what we were expressing. So it's making me very, very high.
Can you introduce your beautiful Shakti partner that we heard in the background?
Yeah, sure. So Victoria, she's here with me. That's her.
Hello.
It was her. I'm not.
Wow, where are you from, Victoria?
I am from France.
Oh, and then you just met Tim in Bali, huh?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did you feel
So
that?
yeah, she's great, and we've been together for a year, and she's having a beautiful process, and she also helps me hold space.
Beautiful. Wow.
But yeah, I don't know if you can still feel it. I mean, I can feel it in my cheeks and my eyes. So the presence is still working here, with all of us.
Yeah.
And that's what that's the transmission, is that it's, we can still be in our ego consciousness and chat, but there's something else going on. Yes. And it's really like palpable and joyful.
Yes.
I think people out there will feel it as well.
Tim,
I definitely got that knowledge of people are having awakenings through this. So go ahead, Alan.
Wow.
Asking Tim, you're pretty much there all day long, aren't you? In that kind of state?
To be frank, when I fall out of that state and back into like quote unquote 3D consciousness, it's such a shock. I remember what it used to be like, how horrible it was. No, it's not horrible, but when it's like a baseline shift over time. And then when you're at a certain moment, you go back to where you used to experience, and you're like, wow, this was really confronting. So yeah, it's I am in different states of bliss and joy often, and that's the best thing of it all. It's like all those drugs people take are to stimulate chemicals you already have in your brain, that if you let Shakti get at the driver's seat, she'll switch on even more than you can imagine. So all the traditions talk about that, about just you get super, super high all the time. And I'm sure everybody has that experience where it's like, this can't be it in the human body. There's got to be greater states of ecstasy. And I experience it through sports or through making love or through drugs or whatever. But how can I get that all the time? And that's what always was my lodestar, was I want to feel that whatever I felt in those experiences, it should be possible to feel that all the time. How do I do that? That was really my driving force.
And now you are feeling it pretty much a lot of the time.
Yes.
And I think drugs get in the way. I mean, drugs for me clog the system. They don't let that purity of energy flow through us. I mean,
it really depends on the person and their, whatever the setup, the drug. For some people, let's say pranayama could be an amazing opening, and for others, no. So it really depends. All these externals, I'm not. There's no value judgment about the different externals. They're externals. For some people, they're fasting. For some people, they're eating raw meat. It doesn't matter. So at a certain point, you're drawn to what you're drawn to, and then, when you connect, you'll drop it. But anything that feels constricting, if drugs feel constricting or eating meat feels constricting, then you shouldn't do it. But if it feels expansive and there's something for you there, then keep following that and see where it goes. Keep pulling on the thread, you know?
That's fair. You're right. You're right. I mean, I don't want to, I can be a little judgmental of certain paths, but that's my,
We all can. And that's something else to really let go, you know, that I really saw only in this last couple of months, that, you know, everyone is expressing whatever needs to be expressed. And how can you judge you can't even understand fully or judge your own expression, much less someone else. And all these traditions and everything that they were doing, and maybe there were distortions, and maybe there were mad gurus and whatever, of course there were. But yet there was some expression that was happening through all them. And some people, even today, are attracted to traditions that might have a lot of baggage because that's what they're attracted to. And who are you to judge their path? You know, if they need to go sit with that for a couple of years or a couple of lifetimes, then awesome, they should go do that. It's not for me to question.
yeah, I agree. Thank you.
I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you need to do it, you know, go ahead.
I do think we're reaching the end of a cycle. We're reaching the end of a consciousness wave, at the end of an old and something new and unknown. Like you said, more of the feminine Shakti is coming in, allowing, and it's not that hard, male, dogmatic, willful way. And this
Yes.
time of crisis is actually here to assist.
Yeah.
So
That's
Yeah, I feel
interesting
the same.
because so much of my process during this time has been releasing lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of getting subjected to that male energy. And to put it nicely, right? So,
Yeah. Nice, you like burned at the stake.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
subjected to male energy, sure.
yes, but it's interesting that now, since we are going into what, if you want to call it more feminine, I just call it the more expansive energy, that I'm releasing all that old stuff.
right, and you're getting to that pure state of divinity. I mean, you're in the releasing is the reason for incarnation, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also it's happening at a collective level. You see, it's so amazing. So Kai's going through her experience. I'm going through my experience. You're going through your experience. We each have our own karma, dharma, whatever incarnation to play out. But yet within that, there's lots of transformations happening. And we can say in the collective consciousness, there's a lot happening, a lot of transformations happening. So, you know, like, you know, you say you want a revolution, and that's very apropos in the US right now, but the revolution is interior, because the same way with the health, like as long as you're using your ego consciousness to solve your health problems, it may not work. It probably won't work. But the minute, you know, the Kundalini snakes on the medical symbol, the minute you give it up to the divine, you know, the miraculous can happen. And this is what's manifesting. It's like we're giving up to spirit, and spirit's manifesting through so many different people in different aspects and feeding back into the collective, making it more likely again. So, you know, in the past, maybe there were, you know, how many people going through Kundalini experiences, you know, we don't know, but, you know, during the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages or something like that, probably not that many. And now
They were
you know,
locked up, probably.
they were locked up. So the collective and the frame that this is going on in is a lot more allowing, a lot more information about it, a lot more people experiencing it, and it just seems to snowball. Because I relate what happens to me interiorly to the exterior, because there's a very thin, mushy tapestry kind of veil between interior and exterior. So if I look interiorly and say like, wow, there's a whole new wave happening, then I start looking exteriorly and say like, wow, that's also confirmed by, you know, we can even say like, you know, the Elohim making themselves present, you know, that's a whole nother layer that before I would hear about light beings working on people and whatever, it seemed very extraordinary. And now I know many people who are, including a guy on your show 2 weeks ago, channeling the Elohim. Like actually they're pretty much everywhere now that I see it.
Right,
So you know, or the ET consciousness, you know, becomes more prevalent. So all these things are happening, and they're all feeding into a collective, which makes it like a safer, stronger space for other people to experience even more.
Right. And that's what's changing the fabric of consciousness itself. And that's why we're all going into the unknown, whether we like it or not. I know.
Yeah. And that the structures, you know, that were related to a certain aspect of being, you know, that's why all the institutions are coming under increased vibratory rhythms because we see the absurdity in it. Like, what do you mean I have health insurance to pay for drugs I don't want, that I shouldn't need, because if I took care of my health, I wouldn't need these things? And what does the doctor really know? And look at his health, it's terrible. You know?
But the establishment, even these institutions of religions and whatever they are, Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, they're all, you know, giving way to this pure God connection. I think that.
Well, not, yeah, but some are not. So also an experience that Kai and I had, which was so similar, and a lot of people I know are having it as well, is that the Shakti, the spirit, starts expressing through them, and whatever tradition they're involved in is not down with that. So like a friend of mine went to a shaman ceremony, and, you know, he had the stick, you know, and that's when you're allowed to sing, like you're leading the chanting. Right. And whatever was coming through him, the shaman took the stick away. Can you imagine?
Those traditions are at the end, and that's why you both left those traditions in order to create something new, because there's only something new happening. So
yeah, but it's really challenging. Like, it's one thing to allow all this stuff coming through you, to have like your hat to hang on to, you know, and it's another when you have you know, supposed authority figures who are part of lineages and traditions and have apparently been through the process themselves, tell you that your process is not valid, and they have to deal with that. You know, like, okay, I'm going to reject hundreds of years of teaching and what these different scriptures say, and etc., to follow what I feel in my heart, and that's what people are being asked to do, I feel.
You're muted.
It's the challenge of trusting your own divine connection. It's like you have to go through that in order to get to that roadblock, you know, that dogma, in order to be free. So people, if you don't go through it, then you're stuck listening to somebody else. But those traditions are collapsing, they're fading away, and we're all going into the unknown together to create something that hasn't existed before, I don't think so.
And that's a huge message. So if I did say something, it would be that listen to your own inner source, your own inner guidance above and beyond everything else.
And that's why we're doing this, to support each other, I feel, in listening. Go beyond the dogmas. Don't let your dogma drive your karma, right?
Yeah, great expression. I mean, you know, there's so much, especially in the yogic world. I talked to one person who was super knowledgeable, like a pundit, you know, like a scholar. And we were having a conversation about the Shakti. And he asked me, you know, what about when the Shakti is in conflict with the scripture? And I said, well, if it's a repeated experience I have with the Shakti, and it's verifiable in that other people have the same experience when I'm experiencing of it, and we talk about it afterwards, and we all experience the same thing, and that happens repeatedly, I'm going to go with that over what any scripture says, because the scripture is just someone else's experience from a long time ago that a lot of people have read and validated.
It's past. It doesn't have relevance sometimes to what's happening.
And exactly, and that's the next phase. It was relevant for them,
yes,
to those people,
yes.
But it wasn't written for this time, this person, this place. It might have some relevance or some vibration that's similar, but it's always fresh and always dynamic. And by you putting it in the prism of it has to be like this scripture, or you can only meditate this way, or you have to sing Om Namah Shivaya a certain way, or you can't use a mantra unless a guru gives it to you. You know, all this stuff is just blocking you.
Right. It's not.
But it's also the divine paradox. What is true is also not true, always. So when the divine speaks through me, I might say one thing to one person and some completely opposite to someone else. Or I might say one thing to one person and then a week later say something opposite to that same person. And that's when you have to completely surrender to the divine, not question it, not let your ego get involved, and say, okay. That's the way it works. So
Yeah.
even in the current time, it's paradoxical.
But we're getting to a point where we are breaking free of those old energies, and we're allowing something new and enlivening to come in and fill us and feed us and go into something, a new direction. That's what I'm feeling.
And also, I think that the freshness, the aliveness of it, our conversation, the other people going through it that we mutually know, that's what we have to do. That I'm also in favor of the community aspect, because it is uncharted territory. We know what happened in the past. We know what happened with different strains of Tibetan Buddhism or whatever, and they, whatever. But this is now, this is here, and the only way we can forge our way forward is to be our individual self, where we're our connection with Source and the divine, but also share with others going through a similar experience, so that there is, I always get the feeling, and this is why the temple is, one is to honor Kali, and the other is it's a womb, it's in the shape of a womb, and that people can come there and be safe and nurtured. It's a crystallis, they're being held in love, and you're awakening, you're safe here to let that expression come through however it looks. If you're having a Christ consciousness awakening, fantastic. If you are dancing like Krishna, amazing. If you're roaring like a lion, amazing. You're safe here to do that. And in my experience, there are not that many places in the world that are existing that can hold that intention. In fact, none.
Yes, because you've visited, Tim has visited a lot, and then he always reports back to me.
Right, yeah.
Well,
I do my fact-finding missions.
Yes.
Those places.
Well, I was really curious to see, how the Shakti manifests, what different gurus are like, how they give Shaktipat, how their students or their devotees, what's their vibration like. You can read in a book, you can see on YouTube video. I want to feel, and many times I was drawn to go sit with people and feel, what's happening with them and how authentic it is, and whether there's something that's resonant for me. And I really felt that this kind of thing that Kai and I have experienced, and we feel that we can hold space for, which is this love free-for-all, where different energies of that vibration of love, of God, of grace can manifest, and people are safe for that, and you're held, and you have people around who've been through it and are still going through it that can help nurture you. And I just feel that's super important, because the written information about it is so sparse. About Kali awakenings, you'd be hard pressed to find anything. About Bhava, this divine embodiment, you can find stuff here and there. Ananda Mayama was a famous saint who had it happen to her, but Ramakrishna would be another one. But it's really seems very rare. And in current days, there are not many yogic books written about Bhava, and some people think it's just your subconscious, you're just projecting, it's all some psychological phenomena. So it's very hard to get support in a nurturing way for that expression through you. And even if the expression that Victoria or Kai going through is not identical to mine, there's so much resonance that it reassures me and allows me to go higher. And the more the group builds collectively and physically, the stronger the energy is. When you meditate with 30, 40 people all undergoing something similar, it's a giant, giant vortex, super powerful.
I think we're building a collective vortex. Everyone watching this and tuning into a lot of the shows I do, or Kai, or your temple. So there's a collective psyche, Shakti building. And it's exciting, because this is going somewhere, I think.
It is.
When is your temple ready? When is it going to be complete?
I hope at the end of October. There's a Kali holiday in India then, so that would nicely coincide. But if Kali has taught me anything, it's don't plan, don't put a label, don't pick a date, don't do anything. So sometime this year, that's what I think I can say safely.
Right. Well, I should go soon. Yeah.
Yay!
Well,
It's been on a while.
should we give one more quick transmission before we leave? Because I still feel it.
Yeah, go, please. It's fine. Yeah, let's do the quick.
That's it. And we end the show on the high note.
Okay. Let's do
Kai,
it.
is that okay?
Yeah.
Vaikasi Mikoya Kika Maya Kanayo Kasi Mikoya Kashati Kanakata Tosi Komoya Kana Valmakali Bhakta A Om Shakti Ma. Hail Mary, full of grace.
Honda Kariya Shava Krono Toronda Kariyata Karatanda Arete Shava Krono Kondo Korota Arete Shivaya Kotondo Hamba Karma Sivaya Guru Tiratara. There it is. Koro Shaiva Karamate. Collectively open up the consciousness of grace. Collectively open up the consciousness of grace. Collectively open up the, there it is, the consciousness of grace. Guru Shandara. Guru Mbara Kamasiva Hotondo Shivaya Ka Arano Guru Hunda Arete Shava.
Om.
Felt a wave of bliss through there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Alan.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kai. It was wonderful.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank your loveliest partner there too, Tim.
Yeah, Victoria. We'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Okay. You two have great smiles, right?
Thank you.
Om.
And
Oh my God, it's so great. Thank you.
everyone who's watching online, I'm tracking that too. So
What?
I was just tracking people tuning in on the YouTube channel as well.
Great.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I will do it again next week with another visitor from another planet.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yours. Okay.
Yeah,
I love you
great.
all.
Love to you both.
Love.
Thank you.
Woo.
Whoa. That happened.
Whoa.
Whoa,
It was the energy.
energy.
We're having cruise.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay.